All right, that was just a quick one more time of how this is going to sound stock. I do have some plans for this. If you saw the thumbnail, you know we're going to be headed over there in a second. But I've been playing with this. I really, really enjoy the guitar, and I want to try and keep it as stock as possible. But I am still having a little bit of tuning stability. And number one, I've noticed a couple of the tuners are a little wiggly and jumpy when I turn. I also don't think they have a real high ratio. We'll find out when we take one of them off. And I'm just not a big fan of the Diamondback tuners. So come with me over to the bench and let's go see what we're going to do. All right, guys. So we are going to start working on this. I will probably speed up or just cut de-stringing all the way, but I'm just going to try and show you what I'm doing because I'm going to try and save these strings. These are the only 11s I have right now. I put the capo on at the 5th fret just to kind of keep the strings where I want them, and we'll just pull them off to the side. There should be enough left over of these strings for us to reuse them with locking tuners, because you pull them through, lock them, wind them up. There shouldn't be a whole lot. I've got a little bit of slack on each end of the string where I put them through. If not, well, then we'll find out at the end of this video if I'm going to have to order strings and come back and finish this up. So I'll just get this one off. I do want to just double check what kind of ratio these tuners are that were on here already. And like I said, I know that tuning stability is not necessarily a locking tuners thing. It just makes string changes easier for the most part. Um, some people might argue that because you can use less wraps, you have less stretching to do on this end of the guitar. I don't know how much weight that carries, but I have been having tuning stability with tuning instability. Oh, cool. The capo did not. We'll just put you over there, not stack them up. The capo didn't keep the string out of the way. Interesting. All right. These tuners, some of them were kind of wiggly, some of them were kind of slipping. So just replacing the tuners period will probably help tuning stability a little bit, just because. The other thing, being able to tune it up properly with properly with a higher ratio tuner. So let's do something here and see what we've got. I'm gonna take a old piece of string, throw it in the tuner here. Let's see if we can get that. All right, so we need to get that back to there. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. Gonna have to try and find a way for me to get cameras that can zoom in on stuff. But as you're looking at that, I've got the string sitting in the tuner. I'm gonna turn it around till the end of the string gets back to here and see how many we got. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and a half. I think I did one turn there. So that's 15 to 1, which is what I expected. The tuners that I did get, these Edaray locking tuners, are 18 to 1 machine heads. So hopefully they'll allow me to fine tune things a little better too. So that taken care of, we know what we're looking at. I didn't think that through. With the capo on there, it creates a problem laying flat. That's fine. We'll just do this so that we can get at those screws on the tuners. Let me get the headstock a little more in view for you guys. So I'm going to take there's the one that's got no string on it. I'm going to take that out of there. So number one, I can compare the screw hole placement. I'm not going to bother plugging up the other hole with toothpicks right now, because it's an aesthetic thing that I'm not terribly concerned about. I can always come back and do it if I feel like it. But I want to see how these new tuners are going to fit in there. I suspect that I am going to have to bore these holes out, because I think these have a little smaller, and we do have the ferrule at the other end does not want to come off. So let's Well, first off, all right. So that'll be that side. Yeah. Well, it looks like it's going to fit through there, but I got to get that ferrule out of there. So give me 1 second. Let's see if we can get that out of there. And then once I have one set, I will probably take you guys out until I get all 6 tuners off. Man, that is in there really solid. So yeah, I won't make you guys wait for all of that. All right, so that's the old tuner. Put you over there. That's the new tuner. And yeah, it's 10 millimeters. I'm going to have to bore out from this side. I have my tool for that already set. Let's see what taking that... Oh, see? I'm going to need a little furniture pen. That was why. If you look at that. So, sorry, Rob. I've made a little extra character on the guitar here. I'll have to get a set of furniture markers and see how that looks after I put the new tuners in. I think I'm going to take a razor blade around the edges of the other tuners to see if I can prevent that for the rest of them, getting those ferrules out of there. But let's auger this one out till the tuner fits in there. I don't know if we'll have to approach it from both sides. I'm not going all the way to the tape, although I do believe I have it marked, but I'm going to go a little bit at a time. Make sure I don't make it too big, because I don't want to introduce any slop into the tuners that I'm replacing because they're sloppy. Just to put a timestamp on it, this is Saturday. You're going to be seeing this the next day because that's just how I roll, because I have no time to pre-do stuff. But I am currently listening to my buddy Bill over at Guitar Pit of Horrors, who you should check out. He is doing a lot of pop-up lives, and also puts up a lot of really entertaining shorts. And he is, I believe, trying to on the hunt for the 1,000 subscribers and the watch hours to try and beat the new requirements before they come up in February. So I'll link his channel in the description down below, and you guys can go check him out. If you see anything you like, drop a like, hang out at one of the live streams. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of good people. And it's always entertaining as hell. And they're very different times of the day. He'll sometimes do a pop-up in the morning. Other times he's on at night, so about 10 Eastern. So depending on your particular schedule, you can see what works for you. All right, we still got a little ways to go. So yeah, I definitely will take you guys out for this, because this is going to be slow and tedious. But I just want to see how these new ferrules fit on, because they are a little different than what was on there before. With the Diamondback tuners, we had 2 screws in back and just a standard ferrule that sinks into the top. Whereas with these, I think I might have to expand this from the top as well. We have different ferrules, which I'll get to as soon as we can get this tuner in there. So these are significantly heavier than the old tuner, so there'll be a little more weight on the headstock. That's fine, because with it being a mini guitar, it's not like I'm doing anything but playing with it in my lap. So looks like it is going to have to go right up to the tape line. Getting closer. These have these wider parts at the bottom, and that's what's requiring me to do this. The other reason I bought these tuners is I kind of like to try and keep the aesthetic as most as possible, and the Ed were the only ones that had the little oval beans similar to this. They're actually a little bit smaller, which I think will probably work better on a mini. And you'll probably have seen some jump cuts in here, because for some reason my brain, when I'm trying to concentrate on something, forgets to talk. So we're going to have to go just a little further to get this to cooperate. All right, yep, this is going to be a little bit. I'm going to cut you guys out, and we will come back once I get this to feed in. So this seems like it's slightly bigger than 10 millimeters. Either that or my tape line is not marked exactly correctly. Just a quick note here. So these things, the sound's probably goofy because my mics are weird. This bigger ferrule on here is causing a problem because I can get it in the top, but it's narrow in the side. So I'm going to take a file to the insides and see what we can. All right, so as you can see there, it only fits in so far, so it's tapered in the inside. I don't want to widen the bottom part of it too much because, again, I don't want to introduce more slop. So I'll bring you guys back in after I figure out what kind of solution I need to do for this. All right, guys, so I have not had a tuner install fight me like this. You can see that it did a little more damage to the finish around this. If I had to guess when this was put together based on what I saw in some other areas, a lot of the hardware was put on this guitar before the finish was completely cured. So I'm going to be very careful with the other 5 tuners. We are going to put this one tuner on real quick so I can show you exactly how that's going to work. And then I'll take you out while I had to buy a drill bit. I don't enjoy using a drill on a headstock just because I don't have a press. It's hard to make sure I'm going straight. So what I'm doing is using the auger tool, or I can't think of the word now to call this again, but this guy, to get it as close as I can to the 10 millimeter. So when I get the bit in, it's got a guide and it's not going to wiggle around. So I will take you out for that. That's going to be slow and labor intensive, but these are a little bit different how these fit together. This nut threads in to the tuner, whereas we just had a regular ferrule up there before. So let me get the one screw in, and I'm going to use the screws that came with the Ed-Array tuners, just to be on the safe side because they look a little beefier, a little more solid. It's very hard to see that in camera, but they look like they'll hold up a little bit better. So break out the screw wax, get just a little bit on there, and then we'll sink our one screw snug, but not super tight till I get the other half of the tuner on. And I'm going to set the screw wax well out of the way because if I'm going to be doing more augering and drilling, you can see the sawdust all over. I'll clean that all up when we're done here. All right, let's get our one screw in and sunk. All right, screw is fighting me, as you can see. I think I might need a smaller screwdriver to work with here. All right, we have that snug. And you can see how that's going to look a little bit different. The good news is the washer, we're going to make sure the flat side's down, the rounded side's up. The washer is going to cover up most of the damage on this one. I'll show it to you once I've got this tightened up just a little bit. So I should be able to fill in the little chip there. I can maybe even go back with a little wood filler and then a furniture marker if I need be. But I'm going to try and be really careful with the rest of these. So what we're going to do, I'm going to loosen up the rest of the strings, take them off, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the rest of the ferrules here before I try and punch them out. And then I will take you out when we come back. So I don't think this is going to look too bad at all. I just am a little disappointed in the paint work, so I'm going to have to be careful with removing these. And I think when I work on these, I'm going to drill from the top and throw some painter's tape over each of these so that hopefully I can avoid any more major chip outs like that. And I won't have made too much extra work for myself. The big thing for me with this one, like I said, Rob gave it to me. It's got dings and dents all over down here, which was really helpful for the cartoonize. There's chips and stuff all over, so I'm not too worried about adding a little extra character to the headstock, but I want to avoid wholesale slaughter if I can. So, all right, couple more strings. I will probably cut you out when we're ready to start looking at all the bushings for the tuners. But this is probably going to be a two-parter. I think we're just going to swap out the tuners today. And if I determine I need a new set of strings anyways, I'll have a decision to make whether I want to go to 12s or stick with the 11s to see if we can then work on the nut and intonation to see if we can get things to be a little more manageable. All right. So I've got all the strings removed. What I'm going to do on each of these, I've got myself a little razor blade. I'm going to try and go around and get under those ferrules without scratching the top to see if we take off another one of these tuners, if we can get it to come out without chipping any more paint. At least that's the idea. So let me do this one real quick and we'll see how well this worked, how well these are all on there. And maybe I can use the razor blade to jimmy it up along the way. So let's get the 2 screws out. Which one was that? That's this one up here. All right. So we're getting the screws out. I keep forgetting to talk. So there'll probably be quite a few clips in here instead of you just listening to me breathe. Oh, wow, look at that. That even one came right off. So these are, yeah, that is really wobbly. Potentially, I could have jimmied these off, tightened this stuff up and try and do it. But like I said, I'm just not a fan of these tuners. But I am going to keep them as the original, which is also why I'm not filling the holes back up. I don't plan on doing anything with this guitar, but if I ever did, I might take the lockers back off and reuse them for something else. We'll see. In the history of guitars, I have never gotten rid of one, so yes, I have a problem. All right, let's see how that bushing looks now and whether we can get under there and get that off without causing any issues. Yeah, it looks like it's sliding under there a little better. So, I don't know if you saw during the opening demo, this apparently is the way, as my shirt says. All right, it feels like it's come up from there pretty well. I'm just trying to see if, yeah, it's away from the finish. Now let's see, is there anything I've got that I can use under there to pry that up without scratching the surface? A small set of tweezers, let's give that a shot. I don't think that's quite strong enough to do so. I think we're going to give it a couple taps from the bottom since I've been able to get under there all the way around. I'm hopeful that that means I can get this bushing out without sacrificing any more paint. Let's give that a shot. That sounded much nicer. Moment of truth, people. Sweet. All right. Yeah, I can see it did put dents in there. So when I do take the drill to drill these out, I'm going to double up on painter's tape across these holes, poke a hole in the middle. Well, I'm going to try augering first and see what it does. Then I'll put tape over before I do the drill, so I'll have a good feel. So that's it for now, guys. I will bring you guys back when I have all the tuners off and all the tuners replaced, and we'll see where we're at on time. If we can get it strung back up, I will do so and see if that has helped the tuning stability at all. And then the next thing to address is going to be whether I'm going to have to move up to 12s or if I can stick with 11s before I start working on the nut. If I go from 11 to 12, I think I can cut the nut for this without having to worry about it's hard to go back the other way without replacing it. So I would like to get it where we can have decent action, decent intonation, and like I said, decent tuning stability. So we'll see you back in probably a few seconds for you, what's probably going to be the better part of an hour for me. All right, guys, so we are back. As you can see, I've got everything. I'm just bringing you back in for the last one, just so I could show you how that did indeed go. You can see that I didn't have as many chip out problems. There's a couple under those other washers, but not as bad as that first one was. So, lesson learned. Uh, Pay attention to what's going on with the paint and everything. Uh, this said maple neck, but I don't know, the way it powdered when I was augering this stuff, it seemed like maybe cheaper wood or maybe this top part's a veneer or something. I don't know, but I just had to be careful. I used the auger from the top down first carefully so it could peel the paint away from the edges instead of chipping everything out and catching it. Then I took the drill and drilled all the 10 millimeter holes. So we're just going to put the last bushing in place, and then we're going to string this up again. So let's get that on there. I already snugged up all the others. Handy dandy Music Nomad Octopus. So we have tuners, and they look good. Not too far off the mark from what the originals did. You can see the bolt going over this instead. I don't know. It feels like maybe that's a little more secure, snug. We'll see how it goes. So let's take this off and start trying to get some strings back through where they belong. All right, so we have our high E, which is going to go down here. Let's see. All right. Undo the locking mechanism on the bottom. We're only going to slide through just a little bit. And that's about as far as I had it sticking out on the other one. So we'll lock it. Pull it tight. Let's see if we can get this going around the bend. Let's tip that up because we don't want that getting tucked under. And all right, that's one string down. We'll do another one quick. I am probably going to throw on some music so you guys don't have to enjoy me putzing with strings for the next 10 minutes. All right, gang, so welcome back. We have 6 tuners, we have 6 strings. Let's just see about making sure that actually is in tune. Power up the Peterson. Get some stuff out of the way. All right, you guys can all see that. All right, let's move this into playing position so I can get these other strings. All right, we are tuned up. Sorry, that was probably in speed up mode or I just cut it out altogether. Um, I really need to straighten out a couple of those saddles because they're crooked. The screws are not even. So let me get that set first and then we'll start to go right into the setup. All right, I'm going to unplug the tuner, move it out of the way. Okay, we've got the saddles sitting straight now. I'm going to all right, way out of tune now, but that's because I messed with stuff. Let's get it tuned back up and see where everything is. Getting a little bit of buzz. Let's see. So, all right. Yeah, I think we're going to come back for a part 2 on this. The intonation, as you can see, those saddles are straight across. So I'm going to have to probably retune, double check the relief, double check the nut, and make sure that we've got things. Because, for instance, on my E, that's not too bad. The C is going sharp though, so there's some nut work that's needed there. I will take measurements with my gauges and all the other tools I have for that. Yeah, we're still getting some stuff going on with it fluctuating. So I will tell you what, guys. I, so I am going to come back to this and we'll do a full setup again, just going through tuning, relief, action, intonation, nut, and pickup height. We'll double check that as well to make sure it's not pulling anything out of there. I'm going to play around with those saddles a little bit and try and see if that's anything that I need to remedy, because they shouldn't all be in a straight line like that. It's not a string through bridge, so there's not offset ferrules in the back like I have on some of my guitars. So something is up. I just need to carefully go through. I don't want to rush through it. So we got the tuner swapped. I will see you next time.